Imagine walking into a doctor's office for a routine checkup only to wake up 3 days later with no memory of who you are or where you live. This sounds like the opening scene of a psychological thriller, but for hundreds of unsuspecting citizens during the Cold War, this nightmare was a documented reality. Welcome to the dark world of MKUltra, a top-secret CIA program designed to crack the human code and master the art of mind control. What happens when a government turns its own population into a laboratory for chemical warfare? How far would an agency go to win the battle for the human soul? Today, we peel back the layers of a conspiracy that moved from the shadows of paranoid rumors into the cold light of declassified truth. The story begins in the early 1950s, a time of intense global paranoia and the looming shadow of the Iron Curtain. American intelligence officials were terrified by reports that the Soviet Union and China had developed advanced techniques for brainwashing prisoners of war. They observed American soldiers returning from Korea who seemed to have been programmed to praise their captors, leading the CIA to believe there was a gap in their psychological arsenal. On the 13th of April, 1953, Director Allen Dulles formally authorized the project known as MKUltra. The goal was simple but terrifying: to identify and develop chemical and biological agents capable of manipulating human behavior through any means necessary. For the next 20 years, the agency conducted nearly 150 subprojects across universities, hospitals, and prisons. They were not just looking for a truth serum, they wanted to wipe minds clean and rewrite them from scratch. The primary tool in this experimental shed was lysergic acid diethylamide, better known as LSD. At the time, this potent hallucinogen was a relatively new discovery, and the CIA saw it as the ultimate weapon. They began dosing subjects without their knowledge or consent. Imagine being a regular office worker at a party sipping a drink, and suddenly the world begins to melt away into a terrifying kaleidoscope of shadows and light. Who can you trust when even your own government is slipping drugs into your water supply? One of the most infamous operations was Project Midnight Climax, where the agency set up safe houses in San Francisco and New York City. They hired prostitutes to lure men back to these apartments, where they were secretly administered LSD, while CIA agents watched from behind one-way mirrors. They wanted to see if sex and drugs could be used to extract secrets or compromise foreign targets. The ethics were non-existent. The mission was everything. Since we are uncovering the hidden mechanisms of state power and these disturbing historical puzzles, it would be a great help if you subscribe to the channel to support our research into more classified mysteries. This operation was only the beginning of a much wider web of deception that spanned across the entire North American continent. The experiments eventually moved into even darker territory under the direction of Ewen Cameron at McGill University. Cameron believed that he could cure mental illness by essentially rebooting the brain. He subjected patients to massive doses of electroconvulsive therapy, sometimes 30 to 40 times the normal power, and kept them in drug-induced comas for weeks on end. While they were unconscious, he played looped recordings of repetitive phrases for thousands of hours to see if he could plant new thoughts into their subconscious minds. This process was called psychic driving, but for the victims, it was nothing short of psychological torture. Many emerged from these sessions unable to recognize their own families or perform basic daily tasks. How could a physician sworn to do no harm participate in such a systematic destruction of the human ego? The answer lies in the massive funding and the absolute lack of accountability provided by the intelligence community. How did such a massive operation stay hidden for so long? The answer lies in the total lack of oversight and the extreme culture of secrecy within the agency. It was not until the mid-1970s, following the fallout of the Watergate scandal, that the public finally got a glimpse behind the curtain. In 1973, sensing the coming storm, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all MKUltra files to be destroyed. This act of mass destruction wiped out the majority of the evidence, leaving historians to piece together the truth from a small cache of financial documents that had been misfiled and survived the purge. The sheer scale of the cover-up is almost as shocking as the experiments themselves. Think about the thousands of pages of data, the names of victims, and the descriptions of chemical formulas that were fed into the shredders to protect the reputations of powerful men. The Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission eventually brought these horrors to light, leading to official investigations and public hearings. The testimony revealed a pattern of gross human rights violations and the tragic death of individuals like Frank Olson. Olson was a government scientist who was secretly dosed with LSD at a retreat and subsequently fell to his death from a hotel window in New York City just 9 days later. Was it a tragic accident fueled by a drug-induced psychosis, or was he silenced because he knew too much about the program's true objectives? His family fought for decades to find the truth, and even today, many questions surrounding his final moments remain unanswered. The case of Frank Olson remains a chilling example of how the agency viewed its own employees as expendable assets in the pursuit of total control. The confirmation of these experiments has forever fueled the fires of modern conspiracy theories. If the government was willing to use its own citizens as lab rats in the 1950s and 1960s, what might they be doing with the advanced technology of the 21st century? Some suggest that the research never truly stopped, but merely moved further underground into the realms of electronic harassment and microwave technology. Are we truly the masters of our own thoughts, or are our perceptions being shaped by forces we cannot see? The legacy of MKUltra remains a haunting reminder that sometimes the most unbelievable stories are the ones backed by the official seal of the state. The survivors of these experiments spent years trying to regain their identities and their dignity. Some were successful in suing the government, but the majority received nothing but a lifetime of trauma and broken memories. The psychological damage inflicted by Sidney Gottlieb and his team of scientists cannot be measured in dollars or court settlements. It is a stain on the history of modern science and a warning about the dangers of unchecked power. Does the history of these experiments change the way you view the world around you today? The shadowy figures who ran these programs believed that the ends justified the means, but at what point does a nation lose its moral compass entirely? The documents we have today are likely only the tip of the iceberg, leaving us to wonder what else was lost in the Great Paper Purge of 1973. The fight for truth is an ongoing battle against those who prefer the darkness of secrecy. We may never know the full extent of the psychological scars left behind by these experiments, but we can ensure that their history is never forgotten. Every declassified document is a victory for transparency, but every destroyed file is a lost voice. As we move further into an age of digital surveillance and neural interfaces, the lessons of MKUltra become more relevant than ever. We must remain vigilant and question the narratives presented to us by those in positions of authority. The past is a mirror, and if we look closely enough, we might see the shadows of tomorrow dancing in the dark corners of yesterday. The story of mind control is not just about drugs and electrodes. It is about the fundamental right to own our own minds. If that right is taken away, what is left of our humanity? The CIA spent millions of dollars trying to answer that question, and the results were nothing short of catastrophic. We owe it to the victims to keep their stories alive and to demand that such atrocities never happen again. The truth is often painful, but it is the only thing that can set us free. Beyond the chemicals and the screams, there lies a deeper question about the nature of human sovereignty. If a mind can be broken, can it ever truly be mended? The legacy of 1953 lives on in every debate about bioethics and surveillance. We stand at a crossroads where technology meets the human brain in ways the original MKUltra scientists could only dream of. Will we use this knowledge to heal, or will the ghosts of the 1960s return in a more digital form? The answer depends on our willingness to remember what happens when power operates in total silence. Only by shining a light on these dark chapters can we hope to prevent them from being rewritten in the future.